I just want to give you some statistics, some figures. So Deron, as an independent company, on a regular basis, every 2, 3, or 4 years, we start a user study. It's a user study we do with some universities, and what we do, we send questionnaires to these decision makers, IT people in companies, and what we do, we create a study out of this, and I just wanted to show you some of these figures of this study. But before I wanted to show you this figure, I wanted to show you what is identity management. Just an overview. And the identity management deals with IT process, business process management. This means, especially, identity has something to do with people. What happens in the life cycle of a user? So the first step in this life cycle is that a user gets hired by a company, starts his business at a company, external consulting, for example. But let's have a look at an internal employee, and you see what you have to deal with is the business project concerning the creation of this identity. And the question is, okay, if somebody starts working in my company, what do I have to do? For example, okay, he needs email address, yeah? He needs typically Active Directory account. But depending on the organization where he is, or the location, maybe he needs some kind of a home directory where all the setup of his environment is stored, and so on. So this is the first step. So we have to deal with the creation. But typically we get this information from HR systems. So HR system like SAP HR or PeopleSoft or something like this. So, okay, we get the information. This guy starts in October the 1st. So we create this identity, but on October the 1st, this is the first date or first day where he really needs access. So we have to deal with some kind of activation here in this life cycle. But now this guy works for 3 years in this company, and now he changes to a different organization unit. Okay, we have to deal with these changes. For example, so maybe he is in a different organization unit. He does not need access to SAP HR system, but maybe he needs access to Magnolia content management system. Yeah, because he is in a different organization unit. But maybe, especially in Germany, for example, if he gets married, maybe he changes his name. Yeah, so he needs a new email address. But maybe not only get married, but maybe he changes his genders. So you have a change in the first name. Possible, something like this. So you have to deal with all these changes. And then maybe he gets on a temporary leave. Yeah, for example, gets a temporary leave, especially if people, they get a baby and they take a leave for half a year. Okay, so they do not need access to all these systems, but we know exactly they will come back. So we have to deactivate this identity, which all the rights and the accounts in the system, and later we have to reactivate this. Yeah. So and finally, the the employee leaves the company, and you have to deal with the deletion of all the accounts, of the rights in the systems, and so on. So, just big picture, what identity management is about. Now, let's go back to the user study. And in the user study, we learned that currently 34% of the participants in this user study, they do not use identity management at all. But 36%, they plan to use identity management, and 7% of the participants, they are just in a project introducing identity management, and 33%, they already use identity management. So you see, we are talking about something like two-thirds of the, let's say, the industry, at least the larger companies, dealing with identity management. So this was the reason why I thought maybe it's worth talking a bit about identity management and how identity management can fit together with Magnolia. So just wanted to show two further slides out of this study. Here you see the coverage of different processes: create, activate, deactivate, and delete processes. The coverage, which means are these processes defined in a company? And what you see is here we have 4 lines. The dotted lines are from companies which do not have identity management currently, and the solid lines are from companies which have identity management. What you see here, you see if here you have let's say a high coverage of these processes. So, for example, here the creation process is defined. Yeah, but you see here, so this is the blue ones. They are for internal employees, and this brownish one, they are for external employees, so consultants, and so external consultants. So you see, for these internal people, the processes are well defined. So they are defined. Defined means they are defined on a paper, not in a technical system implemented, but they are defined. So, but if you look at other processes, for example, the change of the name, change of the password, change of the organization, change of the function in a company, the change of the member status in a project, or the responsibility of technical accounts, you see the coverage of the process definition is very low. And this is the reason why Deron as a company, to be honest, we like this, because we go into the companies, we help them define these processes and help to create a technical solution to support automatism for these processes. Okay, so let's have a look at really how could an identity management solution look like? Just an overview. So, if you look at a typical solution for identity management, you see 3 layers. So, first, you have the business layer. In the business layer, you have information about people, personal information. You have information about business role models in the company, and you know the IT business processes. So this is what I talked about these in these slides with the graphics. So we have the processes here. So in the next layer, we have a middleware called identity management system. And typically, we have a central identity store. It can be a directory, it can be a database, but it's just a middleware. And we have the infrastructure layer. And in the infrastructure layer, at a high level view, we can say, okay, we have accounts and we have rights for this account, yeah, permissions for these accounts. Yeah? And now if you look at the flow in these functional layers, let's think about this process where an employee starts working for a company. So typically you have an HR system, and in this HR system, let's say a data set will be created, SAP for example, and the identity management synchronizes with this HR systems, for example, on a daily basis. And here, using rules, maybe simple rules or more complex rules, I will show you later about the differences here. They decide what provisioning process must start. Provisioning process means, okay, you have a new employee, so this employee, he needs Active Directory account, email address. Maybe it needs something in a VPN access, something like this. Okay, but for example, if you need, let's think about Magnolia. If you need access to the other instance as an editor, typically this is not an automatic process, but you start with an approval process. So you have somebody who says, okay, this guy needs access to Magnolia, and you provide a web form where he can just send this application. This goes to the identity management. Okay, but maybe you have some kind of, let's call it chief editor, and this chief editor has to approve this application. So the identity management starts this workflow, an approval workflow, and after the approval, the identity management just creates the account in Magnolia and give this account the appropriate permissions. Okay, and now this is where I will talk later in the speech how this can be done. Now, let's have a look at 3 different approaches, and what we see is first, okay, what we have in such an identity management system, we have different components. So first, we have some kind of meta store for accounts. So we know in a company, if you look at a person, we know exactly, just by calling the identity management store, meta store, which accounts a user has. Now, we have provisioning modules which create these accounts, or for example, if you look at the process deactivation and deletion, which removes the accounts or disables the accounts. Then we need a workflow module for these applications, for the approvals. Maybe we need self-service functionality if you want to change your password, if you want to change your address and something like this. We have some kind of self-service functionality. If you have a role model in your company, you can define you can use role-based access control. So this means, for example, because you are in the marketing department of your company, that's the reason why you get access to Magnolia. Yeah? So this is kind of role-based. Typically, this is a difficult and not very easy task to create such a role model. You have to look at your technical system, which accounts are there, and which permissions do these accounts have, and who has these accounts. And now you match these with your organizational structure and try to find roles. It's difficult, but it's part of this identity management solution. Now, maybe you have some kind of single sign-on functionality, which is triggered it's supported by identity management. You have federation. You have audit. For example, if you look at banks, for example, it's very important to know who has which permissions in which systems. So you have to track all these accounts, but not only this. What you have to do, if you look at this metastore for accounts, you have the information about, let's say, in German it's called Sollzustand. So it's the information about the things, how they should be. So this is what you have in the store, but you have the technical system. So you must you must check if these are really the rights, the permissions, the accounts in the technical systems, because typically you have administrators there, so they can do everything. So what you have to do, you have to prove your compliance that in your technical systems you have the same information, account and permissions as you have in your meter store. Yeah. Okay. So this is for audit, and there are systems where you can create reports about the compliance reports. Okay, and maybe you have some kind of public key infrastructures. So let's talk about, let's have a look at the classical approach. Classical means this is the approach. Identity management has been done 10, 15, 20 years ago. Yeah? But currently there are lots of implementations which do this currently. So the approach is you have your HR system, and the HR system imports data, exports data. The identity management imports this data, and based on rules, they decide, for example, what is the email address of this new employee, because we have the first name and the last name. And so we have rule-based, and these rules, they decide on what happens here in this identity management store. And there are provisioning rules, and these rules decide what happens here. So this is the classical approach. In principle, what you have some kind of data synchronization. For example, if you have a change in the name, so HR system just reports this change, the identity management system integrates the new name and just passes this to Active Directory. So everything is rule-based. Now, so the next step is that you have this rule-based part, but additionally you have workflows. So workflows for application to new rights, and workflows for approvals. Okay, and now I don't want to too much on this. I just want to say, so this is, let's say, the last step in the hierarchy of these identity management solutions, where you have business roles, so that because you have the information from the HR system and the organizational structure, you have this role-based access model, and this model defines what permissions and what accounts in the technical systems this employee just gets. And you have something like auditing function and reporting function. Okay, so now I talked about users, but to be honest, we have, okay, it's this German slide, but I don't think it's so problematic. So you have internal employees, you have external people in your company, but maybe you have mail lists, and you have to deal with these mail lists, and you have a life cycle of this mail list. You have a life cycle of projects. So you have projects, project member, and so they come into the project, they leave the project, they get rights concerning the projects, and you have some kind of technical users, for example. So there's a life cycle of technical users. Yeah? So I just wanted to show you what you have to deal with, and if you just look at changes, you have different kind of changes. You have changes in the name, in the function, you have changes in the organization, project membership, you have to deal with deprovisioning and so on. And for example, if you look at organizational changes, there's a certain time where you change your organization. So you have an organizational unit, your old organizational unit and your new organizational units. But the reality is that if you change internally in the company, you need for a certain time your old permissions, because you are an expert and you do not have somebody who takes over your tasks immediately. And after you have to go to the new company, or to the new, not company, organizational unit, you need the new permissions. So what you have to do, you have to deal with some kind of overlap. Yeah? And this can be critical. Just think about some business processes where you need some kind of 4 eyes principle. So think about somebody who just became or gets manager, or became manager. So he can start buying something which is very okay. So the point is, you have to deal with that. Maybe because you have 2 roles, for example, because of your user or your organizational unit, it must be, you must make sure that this guy has not too much permissions, so that he can approve his own requests. Yeah. Okay. So this was just about identity management. Now let's talk about a little bit about how Magnolia can be integrated in such a solution. So the simple approach is, and this is really an approach which is implemented in lots of companies. The identity management just sends an email to a Magnolia administrator, and the Magnolia administrator just does the job. Yeah. So simple integration, it works, but okay, it's you need the admin. The next possibility is, okay, if you switch, if you use the JAS functionality of Magnolia, you just can use LDAP for authentication and authorization, and you can just write to LDAP, to this LDAP system. And the reason is because why this is nice is because all the identity management solutions, they all have LDAP connectors. So it's very simple. Yeah. Okay. But the next question is, maybe we can have a direct, because I like this, a direct integration. And the idea is here, and this is what I just want to show you. I just want to show you in the demonstration a very simple remote module. And the idea is that the identity management can query the remote module and get information back, and can use this remote module to create, modify, and delete information in the Magnolia store. So, okay, if you want to do this, what do you have to do? Okay, let's think about this integration module. So, the first idea is, if you look at the possibilities of Magnolia, there is you can very easily create a module which implements its own filter, and this filter mechanism should it's very easily to add to Magnolia. I will show you in some minutes, and the idea is that this filter handles all these remote requests, for example, because you define some kind of URL pattern, and this filter just grabs all the requests with this URL pattern and handles this request. You can add these filters in the Magnolia configuration just by putting here an entry in the server's filters section where you just specify the implementing class, and you can enable this filter, and this is the idea. Okay, now I have the filter. What should this filter do? And what I thought is, okay, let's use some kind of XML language. And I just defined very simple language where I have a query tag, for example, can specify which repository I want to query, can specify the query language, specify a statement, and if I want to, I can add an event ID, and as a result, I get an output where I have a structure. So what I used, I just defined a tag with a node, tag with properties, and okay, so this is the idea of this. Yeah. So what I can do here, I just can query, get a result, and the trick is, if you use the result of this query, you can just you can use this to create, for example, this new or this structure. And I will show you this in 2 minutes. So the idea is query Magnolia, use this, for example, we talked about this auditing functionality for compliance. So we can query everything in Magnolia. We can use we can query all the repositories. We have access to all the information in Magnolia. So it should be possible to check the compliance, to check which accounts, which rights, and so on a user has. But if you want to create an account, for example, you can just use this query and put this query back with the create tag, and these nodes will be created. I will show you. Just short demonstration. Very simple. Okay. So in this, this module has a filter, and in the configuration, I can just configure tag handlers for all the tags. So I have a query tag, I have a create tag, a node tag, and a property tag, and it's not rocket science. And I just want to maybe I just want to show you a short demonstration. Okay, so what I want to do, let's say, so I just use here my, where is this? Okay, so you know, we have here Magnolia, and I first have to check if I'm logged in still. No. Okay, so what I have here my remote module, and in this remote module I have the configuration. Okay, nothing very, yeah. So what I want to do, I just want to query now, and for this query I use, okay, I have to, so it's just my development environment, and what I have here, I have a query, and this is the query I just want to use now. Let's say here. So you see, this is the query I showed in the presentation, and this is in my Magnolia project. So what I just prepared, I prepared a page, which it's just just show you a very simple HTML, just with a form, and you see I have here this .remote, and this has nothing to do. It's just the name, and I just upload a file and submit this file, and I just want to show you the results. So let's have a look at. Okay, that's not very nice. Okay, I have to check. Where is my project? It's work, Magnolia, workspace, this remote module. And here I have this command, this query command. Okay, and I send this, and as a result, I get the structure. So what I just queried all the users here. Let's change this a little bit, and there is one user. It's called Tim. I just save this one, and let's just resend this one. And what I get here, I get just this user Tim. And what I do now, let's have a look at this, the code, this XML code. Just want to copy this one, go back here too, and let's see. I just want to just delete this one and just paste this here too. Okay, maybe we just format this so we can read this a little bit better. And let's just create, okay, it's not very nice, but no, just create a user champ and save this one. Let's close this one and go back to here to select this create users and send this one, and I get the information, the success information, that now I created a user champ with all the information, all this nodes, sub-nodes, and so on. And okay, let's check if this user has been created here. Okay, of course, I only changed this champ, so this everything else remains. So okay, what I want to show you, a very simple but powerful module, and after implementing this, I saw, okay, this cannot only be used for identity management, because if you look at the user list, I saw lots of questions. Okay, we have a website and want to integrate Magnolia content into this website. Okay, so it's very simple. It's a very simple XML interface, yeah, to get this. We have all the power of Magnolia or JCR queries in here, and okay, maybe it could be used for synchronizing information from one Magnolia instance to a different Magnolia instance. It's just on this XML mechanism. Okay, so that's everything I wanted to talk about. So thank you very much.